I am back. Welcome to my cake kitchen. We were here earlier, but we're back and we're making a Swiss meringue buttercream. But unlike trying to show you how to make Swiss meringue buttercream, what I'm actually going to do is talk you through why, as a beginner, Swiss meringue buttercream may not just be the kind of buttercream that it is made out to be. Hopefully, at the end of the tutorial, you will learn how to make it, but you will also not be so down on yourself, especially if you are unable, at least at this point in time, unable to make Swiss meringue buttercream. So this is going to be a very, let's say, informative style tutorial. So hopefully by the end of this tutorial, you have some real important key takeaways and most importantly, value from this tutorial, just so that if you want to try Swiss meringue buttercream and you have everything going for you, you can safely do that. And if you don't have all that it takes to support the making of Swiss meringue buttercream at this point in time, you will not be too hard on yourself. If you see me for the first time on your screen, I am Gladys. I love cake, and over here on this channel we make cakes and we make all things cake. I make them into simple, informative tutorials, helping you navigate the art of the science of baking and art of decorating easily. I think my simple goal is that at the end of every tutorial, I hope you walk away with the belief, or at least the notion, that you can try a cake and be able to complete it in your own home kitchen. So if you love cake, you're starting the journey, you're somewhere in the middle, and you are just tinkering about the baking processes and everything else about cake decorating, stick with us, because I'm sure by your first encounter with us, you will make a decision to stick around. We have such a supportive community here as well, who are just lovely people, very positive, and as long as possible, I will keep reiterating that. So back to our goals for today. We're making Swiss meringue buttercream. However, the take is not going to be how to necessarily make Swiss meringue buttercream. The take is to consider why it may not be the buttercream that it is made up to be. In fact, for your convenience, it is one of my favorite things to make. It is my most recommended. Between Swiss meringue buttercream and French buttercream, it will always be my recommended buttercream of choice. But here's where I will ruin it for you by saying, even though those are my two recommended buttercream options, they are not always appropriate for every intention and purpose or goal. Okay? So if you're asking me a question, which I get all the time, what buttercream is the best buttercream? I don't have an answer for you, because you know why? Here's the simple answer. The best buttercream of choice that you can use for your best outcome is the buttercream you particularly understand, by knowing the recipe offhand, by understanding the recipe development process or the instructions derived to accompany the recipe details, and one that you can specifically adapt and you're comfortable with. And that's the answer. However, Swiss meringue buttercream is a very hot topic on the streets of cake decorating, because I'm sure any professional decorator who decorates cake is either recommended Swiss meringue buttercream, which is like the next sibling below Italian buttercream. And I'll simply say Italian buttercream, on the spectrum of buttercream strengths and reliability, Italian buttercream sits up here, right? And then Swiss meringue buttercream just falls a little lower, and then we have the other ones all the way. The baby of the team, which is unreliable but it's still great tasting, is French buttercream. But please don't go making French buttercream on a sunny day. It will fall apart. It will be a hot mess. So back to the subject of Swiss meringue buttercream. Because it is the sibling next to Italian buttercream is just the bee's knees. But it is, no buttercream is more stable to withstand every condition of heat. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way. If you're looking for a buttercream that is going to be, if you're looking for the buttercream that is going to serve every and any purpose for you, you are on the wrong channel. I've been doing this for 10 years and counting, and I still haven't found that buttercream yet. But there are buttercream options that you can tweak to suit your goals at a particular point in time, starting from adding white chocolate to American buttercream or the assumed egg whites and all of that. Okay, so whilst I am still going to tell you and show you all about Swiss Meringue buttercream, it will probably not be the one buttercream that will serve every and any purpose, because I tell you what, if you stack Swiss Meringue buttercream on a hot weather day at 28 degrees, I'm sure you can barely last for more than 2 hours and the cake will collapse. Okay, and that the same will go for Italian buttercream, perhaps maybe up to 4 hours, but you may not probably go over 28 degrees, because you know why? Butter has a melting point, and this meringue based buttercreams do rely on a high volume of butter, which always makes it susceptible to hot weather conditions. So let's just get that out of the way. But here are some of the good things that are great for Swiss Meringue buttercream, in that it's great tasting, it is very creamy, it is rich. If you get the balance of ingredients right, which is the ingredient ratio right, it is a great tasting, very stable under normal conditions for you to use for filling into cakes, covering into cakes, and it will yield you great results. So why may Swiss Meringue buttercream not be appropriate for a beginner? Okay, let's answer that simple question. If you're a beginner or you are an intermediate baker, have you heard about Swiss Meringue buttercream before? Let's show by hands. If you're in the chat, if you've heard, okay, Lollipop says, yeah, okay. There is Dolly, there's Carabo, there is Steph from Seasonings, and yeah, so Lollipop is showing by hand. Dolly, let's see your hand, because surely you would have seen Swiss Meringue buttercream before. Or Steph, have you seen Swiss Meringue buttercream? Have you heard about it? Carabo, where are you? And if you haven't, those of you who haven't, because I'm counting, there's about 9 or 8 of us in the chat. For those of you who haven't heard about Swiss Meringue buttercream before, or even if you've heard it and haven't made it, just give us your reason. Is your reason because you have no access to the materials or ingredients or tools? What is your reason for not attempting or having not ever made Swiss Meringue buttercream? And for those of you who are sure, no, okay, Steph hasn't. Steph, why is that? Steph, I'm aware that you fall somewhere on the lower end of the baking spectrum because you love cooking. So I'm not surprised you haven't. But have you haven't heard about it before, or you haven't tried it at all? Which is it? Haven't you tried it at all, or haven't heard about Swiss Meringue buttercream at all? I just want to know. And Tapita says, I've never heard of any other buttercream except American until I got to your channel. Thank you. Now, I think I could just name it African buttercream so that we know that, Tapita, you are living it large over there in America, and the only reason you know about Swiss Meringue buttercream is because I'm African, okay? That's not the reason. I'm just joking with you, Tapita. But yes, Tapita, great. You know what? That, Tapita, if you've never heard about Swiss Meringue buttercream and then you landed here and you learned something new, that is kudos to you for just your ability to be open-minded and to learn something different. As I've always said, the thing with buttercream options and baking is that you can only use what you are used to. Okay, you can only use what you are used to, especially if that specific thing you are used to works for you. Why would you change it? And why would you go do anything else? So there's not a right or wrong if up until you got here, all you ever knew was Swiss Meringue buttercream. Because if it's worked for you over the years that you've been baking longer than I have lived, that's not true, by the way. Why would you want to change it? So kudos to you, Tapita. But yeah, Seasoning says, never heard of it. Steph, that is fine. Never heard of it. So you know what? You are exactly the audience I am speaking to, right? The audience who, if you've never heard of Swiss Meringue buttercream, it shouldn't be an unusual feeling, and you shouldn't feel out of place at all. Because whilst I could have just come here and taught you how to make Swiss Meringue buttercream, the truth is I have repeated the recipe time and again on this channel in various formats, from lives, previous lives, to long form videos, to shorts form, and all of that. So today I just wanted to focus on why, if you've never heard about it, if you've never made it, why it might just not be that you're missing out on anything. I think that take also should inform you about the strengths of Swiss Meringue buttercream and also the downsides for which you might just not probably want to. But ultimately, I guess at the end of the tutorial, the intention or the objective is for you to be informed on both sides about Swiss Meringue buttercream so you can make a choice about it. Okay, so the choice here, the first thing, the argument for making Swiss Meringue buttercream is that it is super stable, not under every condition like most buttercream, not under all conditions, but it's super stable, has a great mouth feel, is very smooth, has such a creamy feel, and it has a lot of great things going for it. But as a beginner, here is why Swiss Meringue buttercream may just not be an option for you. It involves primarily, there is a secondary option which I will touch on, but primarily the original Swiss Meringue buttercream requires the use of fresh egg whites, okay? Fresh egg whites and a few other ingredients that may just not be beginner friendly for you. Separating the eggs and trying to measure things and be accurate, because one of the things to get about Swiss Meringue buttercream is precision and accuracy. There is also the intention about timing, temperature control, and the agitation process, which is generally the whisking of the buttercream to get the consistent and right result and outcome for it. That can be extremely difficult a process for a beginner. So if you're a beginner, Swiss Meringue buttercream using raw egg whites may just not be for you, and that is okay. Besides that, besides the fact that the process is just too long for you, the other thing is that it requires expert tools, okay? Swiss Meringue buttercream relies on the use of a stand mixer. You can use a hand mixer, but I am yet to see great results using a hand mixer because of the amount of time you have to whip up your egg white. It has to whip to a specific volume with gloss. The stiff peaks, it's a lot, right? So you can only derive that result using a stand mixer. And if you use the hand mixer, you might have to tweak down or scale down your recipe quantity, which might just not yield enough for you to use, if you know what I'm saying. So because it requires expert tools here, it might just not be for you as a beginner. Because what if you don't have a stand mixer? Are you going to go out and buy yourself a stand mixer just so that you can get results from Swiss Meringue buttercream, right? And I've already told you, whilst it may be argued to be very stable, great tasting, has all the advantages going for why you should make it, if your aim is to settle on it because you want a super stable buttercream for a warm weather day, that is still arguable. So are you going to go for the cost of investing into all these tools, especially if you cannot afford it, just to settle for a substandard, less guaranteed result? Probably not. So at this moment in time, if you don't have a stand mixer and you are not aiming to get one in the immediate time, Swiss Meringue buttercream might just not be your business, and that is completely fine. Is that making sense? There are some random people knocking on my door. I know them random is the boys. Hello. Where is it? Around the way? Over there. Where? Near Daniel's house. Unfortunately, I can't come there. Do you want to wait for Mr. B to come and help you?
Yeah, when is he coming?
I think he went that way, your way, as if he was going to the co-op. So perhaps if you take that course, you might find him over there. I can't because I am on a live session. Okay, I'm teaching a class. It's okay.
It's so yummy. I can see it from the window.
Look at you. Come on, go look for the ball. But if Mr. B comes...
I know where the ball is, but I can't get it.
Okay, so you know what? Stick around over there. Are you either find him at the co-op. If you don't and he comes here before I see you next, I'll send him your way. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Please. I am so sorry. Otherwise, who are these people? I could have just asked them a favor for you. I don't know them. Let me see if I can ask a favor for you. Yeah? Yeah? People, just bear with me. I've got to help some kids out. Right. Where are they? Where are the boys? Believe me when I say I'm a good neighbor, you know. Sorry. Whoo. Whoo. Can you tell I've been running around? And those are not even my kids. I had no business with them kids. Whew, they lost their ball. And they think that's what you get for being everybody's favorite auntie. Making people cakes and being cool with everybody. Because them kids pass by their mums and dads to come and ask me to come and get a ball that they kicked into a thorny bush. So people, let me catch my breath before we talk about Swiss Meringue. Welcome to my home life, okay? My home life with the neighbors and the neighbors' kids. You're welcome. Whew. I need me a drink. Ha! Which people are planning the trip behind my back? You and Auntie Jackie and the rest of you. I haven't seen Auntie Jackie here for a week now. I need to go find her. But people, let's be back to the subject of Swiss Meringue Buttercream. I'm happy to be able to help the kids out. It's lovely when you live in a place where the kids just love you. It's nice. I love it, okay? It gives me something to do, okay? But besides that, we were talking about why Swiss Meringue Buttercream may just not be for you. So perhaps if you do not have like my breath, like if you do not have the expert tools and equipments, leave it alone. Earlier I said it also requires a very specific process, which is that the process requires having to separate the egg whites, degreasing your utensils, including all the equipment that you're going to use, because any little streak of grease in Swiss Meringue Buttercream is going to spell disaster for you. Now there's a science to it where it's really neither here nor there, but because I am here to empower you with the information to get great results, I will tell you the making of Swiss Meringue Buttercream actually requires having to degrease your utensils and tools and equipment, and that alone can add a ton to the process. Because I tell you what I do for myself, I wash up all the time, clean up all the time, but on the day I'm going to have to make Swiss Meringue Buttercream, I have to wash the same glass bowls twice and then wipe them clean first. Normally I'll leave stuff to air dry, but now I have to wipe them clean first, not air dry them, and then follow up with a kitchen towel that has vinegar, as in distilled vinegar, to kind of degrease everything, because vinegar is able to break down the fat or oil grease residue that are left in the utensils or bowls, if you like. And it kind of makes sense to actually use stainless steel bowls or glass bowls, which are very specific, because plastic bowls end up trapping grease, which cannot be broken down even with the best clean because of how plastic is made. So it's not useful for Swiss Meringue Buttercream. So can you see what I'm getting here at? That as a beginner, all of these considerations for making Swiss Meringue Buttercream can just be awfully difficult to make. Then there's also the subject of food safety considerations also, because the use of raw egg whites requires a specific cooking temperature to make it safe for foodborne bacteria, from foodborne bacteria. Sometimes you would need a specific thermometer. I mean, I have an infrared kitchen thermometer here, but you can also have the probe or whatever medium the thermometer comes in. The point is, you still require that special thing to help you get the temperature right. And then you have to transfer it and all of that. And then besides all the process, as a beginner, there could also be just the mental block or the mental consideration where you're feeling like, this is just too hard. I don't want to undertake this because it is just above my skill level, right? which of these, like all the reasons I have given for why Swiss meringue buttercream may just not be for you, which of these reasons is most applicable for you right now in your circumstance? Especially for those, if you haven't heard about it, that's okay. That is just because it's probably never shown up on your radar, which is completely fine. But right now you've heard about it. I am citing reasons why it may just not be for you. Which of the reasons I have cited so far, from specialist equipment to food safety considerations to the tedious technical process of it, which of these reasons almost would make starting Swiss meringue buttercream difficult for you? Put that in the chat and let's see. Because it just seems like I am talking to the exact group of people who might probably benefit from this particular tutorial. So what reasons, so far the reasons I have outlined, which one of those stands out for you that, you know what, especially for this reason, I may just not be keen on making Swiss meringue buttercream? From Karabo to Dolly to Tabitha and Steph in the chat. Let me know which of these may be good reason for you to not attempt Swiss meringue buttercream. And whilst we are doing that consideration, I'm going to talk you through the ingredients I have on the table and the ones that will come along. Now over here I have egg whites, as in fresh egg whites that have been separated and mixed into some granulated sugar. There's 270 grams of egg whites mixed into 300 grams of granulated sugar. Tabitha, if you're in the chat, or Lollipop, or any of you, Steph, or any of you, if you don't mind me asking, kindly put the recipe details in the chat for me so that anyone who wants that will have access to it. But we have 300 grams of granulated sugar to 270 grams of egg whites, and this measures relatively about 6 large eggs. Actually, it's the exact large eggs that I broke for the lemon curd, from which I extracted the yolks. So those are moving on to making Swiss meringue buttercream. And then we have about 5 grams of cream of tartar. Cream of tartar is an acid that will help the egg white proteins here and stick, helping it to whip up properly and to give a glossy white finish to the meringue. And then we have icing sugar. Most Swiss meringue buttercreams will probably not recommend or indicate the use of icing sugar. For me, I do, and the specific reason I have icing sugar is to add bulk and body and to help stabilize the buttercream, and that is for the texture and volume of the buttercream. But the additional detail here for the use of icing sugar is also to stabilize and cancel out the buttery mouthfeel. The quantity of butter required for Swiss meringue buttercream sometimes works out a ratio of 1 to 2, which means that it can be awfully buttery if you don't get the balance of ingredients right, and adding icing sugar sort of balances that out. The quantity of icing sugar in a good way kind of helps to make the quantity of icing sugar also comes as an adaptable option anyway. So I have 150 grams here, but depending on your preference and taste profile, you might want to reduce this. It can start from anywhere from 80 grams all the way to 200 grams if you want to make it sweet. Swiss meringue buttercream is naturally or innately not a very sweet buttercream, especially if you eliminate the use of icing sugar. I'm not using it here as an optional ingredient. It's actually an integral part of the recipe, but the reason I'm using it is what I am outlining to you here, in that it balances, it adds bulk and body and helps to stabilize and also cancel out the buttery mouthfeel of the buttercream. And then one other ingredient most important to Swiss meringue buttercream is butter. The butter is actually cooling in the fridge. The reason why I haven't brought it out is that I don't want it to be at room temperature, because I am aiming to kind of cause the Swiss meringue buttercream to sort of curdle, so that we can we can troubleshoot that for you. I'll come to the subject of butter in the use of Swiss Meringue buttercream. So we have 560 grams of butter that is already in the fridge. It is unsalted butter I am using today. So for that, we'll add about 5 to 7 grams of salt to kind of bring, enhance the taste and bring complexity as well. So those are the ingredient quantities. I was asking what would make you not want to consider Swiss Meringue buttercream, and seasons. Steph says because of the equipment, she might not want to try Swiss Meringue buttercream, which is okay. Tabitha says, I don't think any of them would stop me. I have all the equipment. I think the only thing stopping me was that I had not heard about it. Well, great. So Steph will definitely not be trying it just yet, simply because of the lack of equipment, which is completely fine. Steph, the good thing is that you have other options such as American buttercream that will always come beginner friendly and doesn't require the use of specialist tools or equipment for you here. So that is great for you. Tabitha, you haven't heard about it. So hopefully by the end of this tutorial, you will know about Swiss Meringue buttercream. And in fact, I have Swiss Meringue buttercream in various forms over here, on long form, in previous live videos. And today I'm just taking it from a beginner friendly point of view, just so that you have the alternative explanations and reasons for Swiss Meringue buttercream. But ultimately, when we finish making it, you would understand how to make it. And if you want to try it, that would be an amazing recipe to start with. Tabitha, okay, so Tabitha was putting the ingredients in the chat, which is 300 grams of granulated sugar, 270 grams of egg white. There is 5 grams of cream of tartar, which is an acid. There is 150 grams of icing sugar, and there's 560 grams of unsalted butter. Included with the unsalted butter will come a pinch of salt, which is between 5 to 7 grams. You can also swap a third of the unsalted butter quantity to salted butter, so that you can eliminate the use of salt here, which is fine. Now Karabo says, my stand mixer just broke, so Swiss Meringue buttercream is a no. Tried it with a hand mixer and it ended up and I ended up gaining biceps. Well, hopefully you have no one to punch with your newfound biceps. Johnny Bravo, there you go. Right. But Karabo, here's the question. Did you like the results besides your biceps? Okay, that's a joke. But what was your result when you used the hand mixer? Because I kind of figured, I did hint at the use of a hand mixer, making it incredibly difficult and almost unattainable. But what was your result? Did you like it outside of the biceps? Did you like the result? And compared to the use of a stand mixer, what was it for you? Now, Tabitha says, is this whipped over a double boiler? Unfortunately for you, Tabitha, yes, it is whipped over a double boiler. But like I said, this is the primary recipe for Swiss Meringue buttercream, where you have the raw eggs. There's the alternative version where you can use pasteurized short-boiled eggs and don't have to do the cooking over a double boiler. However, I will touch on that as we develop this, okay? Dolly says, I don't think any of the things listed will stop me from making it, as I have all the equipment you list and I can follow the instructions. I mean, fantastic. So we have one person who feels like they have everything else and still can. Have you tried it before though, Dolly? Have you tried it? Okay, so Karabo has just confirmed the use of a hand mixer still yields good results. That's fine, Tabitha. Tabitha will be back in a few moments. That is completely fine, Tabitha. Take your time. So, I mean, amongst all the groups of people that I have in the chat, all of you have different reasons why you may have or may have not made Swiss Meringue buttercream. But for all the reasons that is listed, nothing would stop you if you had all the things going for you. I thought somebody would say, I just don't like it because I really don't like it. But I don't think I am getting that at all from you. What I am actually getting from you is that if you cannot make it at this moment in time, there's almost the expectation for you to be able to make it in future. Because at the moment in time, like Karabo's mixer is broken. Steph doesn't have a mixer. Dolly has everything going for her. She will want to follow it and yield some great results. And actually, she says she has made Swiss meringue buttercream before, and Dolly says that is what she actually uses for filling her cakes. So we have someone in the chat who actually has tried Swiss meringue buttercream before, is able to derive Swiss meringue buttercream, and has all the confidence in it. So for those of you who have never heard about Swiss meringue buttercream, it's what you call a meringue based buttercream. Okay, it's a meringue foam that is made first of all, and then into that you introduce butter. It is whipped up together, and then you end up with buttercream that is called Swiss meringue buttercream. That's all. So if you have never heard about Swiss meringue buttercream, it is if you ever get asked what Swiss meringue buttercream is, it's nothing to do with Switzerland, okay? I don't know. It's nothing to do with Switzerland, but anyway, it's a meringue-based European-style buttercream that is made from basically mixing butter into meringue, as in a meringue egg white foam, okay, and then whipped together. In fact, the science of that has something in common with the making of mayonnaise, but I don't want to confuse you, so let's move on. I've already told you what ingredients we are using, and over that we are going to be cooking our egg whites and sugar over a double boiler. We've spoken about a double boiler before because earlier in our tutorial making lemon curd, we sort of steamed the lemon curd over a double boiler. So I'm going to bring my plate back up again. Layla. Did I get that? Okay, so, okay. So, Layla, you are leaving this message on behalf of Mohammed, who is 7, because I doubt Mohammed would have been able to express himself this much. Or is Mohammed texting over Layla, his mom's phone? I am guessing. Right, so Layla, hi there, it's Gladys. Okay, if you meet, I suspect this would have been your first time being here. If it is Layla, who are you? Are you Mohammed's mom? Because over here we don't address children and we don't invite children to the chat because it's the internet and there are like restrictions. So just apologies to you. We want to interact with you. Okay, and thank you for introducing yourself because the name showing here is Layla. So I'm going to kind of address you, Layla. Whatever information you need for Mohammed, that's fine. But yeah, my name is hi, my name Mohammed. I'm 7 and I love baking with my mom. So Layla, I guess you are the mom. I don't want to make an assumption. So Layla, I'm going to be addressing you, Layla, instead of Mohammed because okay. Right. So yeah, so you're telling us you bake with your son, is that correct? You know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for my, yeah. So what am I doing here? We have a double boiler because we want to kind of steam cook this egg white slowly to the safe temperature of 160 to 165 degree F, which is equivalent to 71 to 73 degrees C. Oh, yeah. Hi, Layla. Yeah, we can say hi to Mohammed. Mohammed, you like baking with your mom. Great to see you here with your mom. We just wanted to make a point that whilst I know you're typing on his behalf, it's just a little weird talking to a 7-year-old. Do you know what I mean? So, no, not at all. That's fine. Hi, Mohammed. What does he like baking with you, mom? Layla, what does he like baking with you? And where are you joining us from? So I'm going to be steam cooking this slightly so that it reaches a safe temperature of 160 to 65 degree F, which is about 71 to 73 degrees C. And by so doing, we would have this safe so that we can go and whip it up into the meringue, and then into that we'll add the butter. Okay, I think for a beginner, okay, Layla, you're in Northampton. Okay, have we caught up over here before? We don't mind. It's still great to talk to you nonetheless. But yeah, if you're local, great to still like catch up with you. How are you, by the way? There you go. What does Mohammed like to bake with you, Layla? There you go. Now, into the egg whites mixture, I'm going to add the cream of tartar, right? Look, I'm going to... He likes baking cupcakes. Look, do you find yourself making cupcakes for him for school? Look, a mother who bakes with their child is always a plus. Okay, so Tapita is asking, is this the grandma 7 minutes frosting? I've made this one time and I have to email you. Tapita, yes. You know what? This has something in common with the grandma 7 minutes frosting. Because the 7 minute frosting, some people have just whipped up the frosting and then added the sugar to the meringue, and that's just it, and then they use it as a frosting, and other times they add butter to it. There are similarities, okay, but when I checked the 7 minute frosting, there are variations in the ingredient ratios, right? Which kind of makes it really difficult to kind of pin down. But it is grandma. The simple answer is the 7 minute grandma frosting is a variation of Swiss meringue buttercream. It is not exactly Swiss meringue buttercream because of the ingredient ratios, right? And the timing, because you can't exactly whip up, especially if you cook the egg whites to the safe temperature of 160 degree F. It's going to take up to about 10 to 12 minutes to whip up. And you are looking for a specific type of whipping, which is that it should be a stiff peak, which means the meringue can hold with a pointy top, and the base or the bowl and the meringue has to be cool. So if we go for just grandma 7 minute frosting, which works on the principle that the entire frosting should be 7 minutes, then we are going to lose out on some of the important elements of Swiss meringue buttercream. But the simple answer is yes, grandma 7 minute frosting is a variation of Swiss meringue buttercream. Let me just see if I have the internet on my side. Yeah, go on now.
Tick check, Rio. Tick check.
Your boys came looking for you.
Who?
Your boys came looking for you.
Boys and neighbours?
Yeah.
Did they need help?
Yes.
What, Rio?
Oh, with the ball they kicked into the thorny bushes. Steph, cream of tartar is an acid powder that helps to unstick egg white protein. It is actually also the base that is added to baking powder to make baking soda. Very confusing, okay? Boys, here.
Oh, okay. Is it warmed up?
Yeah.
Okay.
All warm
Forks.
and fresh. There you go. Do you need some water?
Yeah.
Do you need a bowl?
No.
There is the cheese mayo for you. Your cheese mix. Do you want?
Coleslaw I saw.
Yeah. Do you want?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I need another glass though, please.
Okay.
Come in, Rio.
There you go.
Thank you.
Right, Steph is asking what cream of tartar does. Cream of tartar is just an acid that unsticks the egg white protein in here, which makes it easy for when it is whipped. It also aids, because the egg white proteins are unstuck, it also aids a glossy and white looking meringue. So that is the goal of cream of tartar in the making of Swiss meringue buttercream. But actually, as an acid, it's also added as the base for making baking powder, because baking powder and baking soda are two different things. Okay, they're completely two different things. I don't know if you knew that. Did you know baking powder and baking soda are two different things? When making Swiss meringue buttercream, though, it's also important to kind of observe it for visual cues and know what you're looking at, and know what you're looking at, and to observe for the changes that will occur in the process. Because from the start, you have like a thick looking, almost like resistant egg white that doesn't hold and will fall off if you try to stir it with a spatula. And then over time, it kind of cooks. It kind of cooks and then ends up being so flowy and easy to kind of lift, if you like. And then it looks like it has foam on top, and then it gets loose as it develops. But you want to make sure that no matter what you're doing, you don't take your eye off this phase, because you take your eye off and you will end up with scrambled egg whites, and that is not a good look. And the moment you get scrambled egg whites, it's like game over. You need to give it all up and start all over again. So another reason why, as a beginner, you may just not want to undertake Swiss meringue buttercream is simply because of the fear of wasting. Because after all, everything you've done, if it kind of goes to left field, you have to kind of take the whole thing out and start all over again. And who wants to do that? Certainly not me. I don't fancy wanting to waste money and effort, if you like. And yeah, Steph was saying, yes, she does know baking powder and baking soda are two different things. That's fine, right? Because it has some cream of tartar, you can see that as it foams, it gets lighter and it looks very porridgey. At this point, right, there are some recipes. Let me just clarify the different sort of techniques and processes on the market that you would come across. There are some recipes that will call for just whisking the egg whites and sugar just until it's all like the sugar is dissolved. And how people do that is, you will find that people, like some people on the platform, once it gets to this point, they put their hands in, you feel the gritty, you feel the sugar on your hands. Those of you who don't like people using their hands, don't worry. I've just washed my hand, you can see, right? And this is hot stuff. Please don't be like me, okay? There you go. It is very slimy. If you do not like touching slimy stuff, leave this alone, okay? But yes, if you don't know anything about Swiss meringue buttercream and you come across a recipe where the technique just encourages you to just whisk the sugar and egg whites together until it's all just dissolved, you want to be careful, because the slow cooking or the double boiler method performs a few different functions here, which is that we are trying to get this egg whites to a safe temperature that will make it devoid of foodborne bacteria, which is the 160-degree F we are aiming for. So not only are we using the heat source to pasteurize the eggs, we are also trying to get the sugar to dissolve in the egg white and also change the consistency of egg whites, which will make it okay for whipping easily. Okay, so the mixing here doesn't stop when the sugar melts into the egg whites. Not at all. You have to just keep going until you get to the right temperature. So I am going to employ my... Right now, I'm sitting at 61 degrees C, and I'm aiming for 71. So I'm 10 degrees short, and then we'll get there. Oh, okay. So, Steph says, I am glad you did the demo by touching it because I was wondering what textures you are aiming for. Right. The texture I'm aiming for, it's looking very foamy. It is not, it's gotten so foamy and it's viscous if you like, but it's light. When it started, there was tension. Trying to mix it together, there was a lot of tension, whereas it isn't anymore, and now you can almost lift it with the whisk. And when I try to feel it, you can't feel the sugar granules at all. It is a foamy look consistency. There's nothing here. So the sugar has melted, as in dissolved into the egg white. All I'm waiting for is to get the right temperature. Okay, so even when you've gotten your sugar dissolved in your egg white, you should be aiming for the right temperature so that you have your egg whites safe, right? So I'm still doing that, which is mixing this, right? I have 69 here. It can be awfully difficult, but my kitchen temperature is about 27 degrees. Three. Oh, Carrie is back. Carrie says, I'm not much of a baker, but I love your channel. Thank you, honey. You know what? I think I've come to the acceptance that a lot of you, even if you're bakers, love the channel because you love it. Not necessarily because we're doing anything special over here. I don't know, but I love you guys too. Thank you, Carrie. Right? I hope you're having a good day, though. We were here a little earlier. Now, the consistency we're looking for is I'm still trying to get the temperature right because the temperature can be awfully difficult to kind of get, especially with this mixer here. This do not stir into beam. Okay, it's a laser. It's an infrared laser. At this point, you want to be careful because whilst it's looking foamy, any wrong move, you will. Oh God, that's hot. Now it's hot. Okay, it is so hot. What? I needed 160. I have 152 degree, 51, 52, 150. It keeps changing really quickly. If I feel like I'm ignoring you, I'm not. I'm trying to not get scrambled eggs. Look, my face is warm. See why I said this may not be for a beginner, because this temperature, after everything I did, we have 143 degrees. See? And we need 160. Now we have it all foamy, right? I come all the way up to 159 and then it stops. Because I've reduced the heat, right? Okay. There you go. Now let's, oh shoot, look. I didn't show you the temperature. People, if I tried that, we would end up with scrambled eggs. So let's move on, okay? But yeah, now that we've got the consistency and the heat right, look, we have almost a foamy mixture here. Remember, the foamy mixture is also influenced by the fact that I added the cream of tartar here. If you don't, there are different stages people add the cream of tartar. I have known the cream of tartar to be added later in the process, and I've known it to be added at the start. It doesn't make any difference at all. But the addition of the egg white protein, the addition of cream of tartar will affect the look. And now we almost have a foamy mix over here. I did go ahead to degrease all my utensils and equipment. So now I'm going to start whipping this up. Problem is, when this starts whipping, it's going to be a bit noisy and I can't talk to you. So let's just whip this and then I'll show you the visual cues when we come to it. Okay? And for those of you asking me questions, I'm going to look at your questions and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Okay? Not right now though. Just a quick tip. This is going to whisk for a maximum of, let's give or take 12 to 15 minutes. But to give the mixer motor a break, at every 4 to 5 minutes, we have to stop. And within that time, I'll give you the visual cues of what you should be looking out for. So it's almost 5 to 7 here. So let's give it exactly 7 o'clock. I'll stop and then we'll talk again. Okay? Bear with me. important. We are 2 minutes in because I'm looking at the time. We started the mixer at 4 minutes to 7 and it's 6:58. So we are exactly 2 minutes in, and this is the consistency the meringue looks like, right? Now this is called soft peaks. Okay, soft peaks means the peak of the meringue is still falling. It's not super unstable, but it is still soft because look, it has kind of like fallen over. So just in case you are not sure, these are the visual cues you should be looking for. What we are looking for in the entire process of whipping this meringue is, first of all, to ensure we form the meringue base, which is the foam base, which is a combination of water, air, and the sugar crystals dissolving into the liquid bit, which is the egg white. We're aiming to form the meringue base, okay? And it should be cool, most importantly. Now, can you add the butter at this stage, even if the meringue is cool? You could, but the structure hasn't formed right. So if you throw in the butter here, even if you get the consistency of butter and temperature right, you're going to get a meringue buttercream base that doesn't hold, and that is because the elements haven't been able to emulsify or hold together for a very stable emulsion, if that sort of makes sense. So always remember, no matter what recipe you are watching, the part of the meringue making process is important because you need the foam to stabilize first, which is why we are aiming for stiff peaks. But more than anything, the continuous whipping, also incorporating air, which increases the volume of the meringue, also does the other task of cooling the meringue as well. And even if we do end up with a stiff meringue, the consistency we require, and the meringue bowl or the meringue itself is not cool, you can leave it on the side to cool. But I just wanted to show you what a soft peak looks like. There you go. So we're going to continue whipping it, but if you can see, our meringue looks very white over here because we have added the egg white, as in the cream of tartar. And if you left this, I've tried this before, if you left the meringue at this point to sit on the countertop, it will begin to break and it will look like it's curdling and it will begin to separate, and that is because the liquid in the meringue will begin to seep out and it will separate. So you need to kind of keep mixing it until your meringue is completely set. And whilst it is whipping to give you the stiff peak, it will increase in volume and sometimes it will engulf the entire balloon whisk. So that's something to look out for. So I'm going to kind of keep whisking. But there was a question in the chat which Carabel has answered. Steph was asking whether blending will make a difference. And it's yes. Carabel has already answered that. I will elaborate on it a little further just to give you context and clarity on that. And somebody was asking in the chat how long I've been baking. If you're new on the channel, I've been baking a little over 10 years. Okay, is that a long time? I don't know. I know people who have baked longer than I have lived. Tabitha, you come to mind. you go. Now, at some point, depending on your use of the equipment, the stiff peaks might just disappear. And that's what we are looking for. Okay, it is exactly what we're looking for. Now, my bowl is still hot. So, would you want to keep whisking? Not necessarily, because I have achieved the stiff peak here, right? You just want to make sure that the meringue stays stiff at the tip, and that's a guide to the stiff peak you are looking for. Exactly this. Okay, so with that in mind, my bowl here is still warm. There are a few ways you can do this if you're in a hurry. You can take the bowl off, sit it in a pan of cold water to cool the bowl and to make sure that the meringue cools quickly. If you're not in a rush at this point, you can take off the bowl, set a cover over it, put it in the fridge, let it cool itself before you do anything else. Even if we have attained stiff peaks to the meringue, it is really, really important that the bowl and the meringue is cool. So I am going to kind of just let this whip another 2 minutes. We're done with it, and then we'll leave it to cool. And I'll be touching on the very important and most importantly, the most significant element in the ingredient listing of butter and how it affects the results we desire when it comes to buttercream. Hopefully, maybe we should be able to create one of the problems that Swiss Meringue buttercream may have, and then we can troubleshoot it. The problem is that it's like I have to make that problem up simply because I've been making Swiss Meringue buttercream for the entire time I've been baking. So needless to say, I've sort of mastered the ways around it, and it's simply understanding how temperature, friction, and timing affects your results. And because I've done it consistently, it's like I almost have to engineer the problem just so that I can troubleshoot it for you. So hopefully I have tried to sort of set this up by leaving the butter in the fridge to be cold, and I will explain to you why cold butter may just be a problem for Swiss Meringue buttercream. So let's just whip this quickly for another 2 minutes, and then we can move on to talking butter. Okay. Going back. Oh, so she's been here for a little while. So here's a normal question I get all the time about Swiss Meringue buttercream. When do you feel like you've overwhipped the meringue? Well, you'll know when you've overwhipped it because then the meringue structure will begin to break. But at that point, you would have gone past the threshold of having your meringue be stable. So does it make a difference to your outcome? Not necessarily. As long as the meringue base is cool, okay? The only downside is by over whipping it, you are overusing your mixer head, which may just not be a good thing. But if you stay within the guidelines of checking it every 3 to 4 minutes towards the 12-minute mark, that's like a perfect guideline in terms of timing for you. As we speak, the bowl is not warm. I could add the butter now, but I'm probably just going to do the safest thing by not doing any of that. I'm going to move this out of the way and then let it sit and cool whilst we talk about butter and the effects of butter in the making of Swiss meringue buttercream. Tabitha says she's busy in her kitchen. Aren't we all, Tabitha? It's okay, darling. It's okay. What are you cooking in your kitchen, Tabitha? Tabitha, what are you cooking, darling? Now, it can never be Swiss meringue buttercream when we don't talk about butter, because butter has the tendency to make or break your Swiss meringue buttercream. And the reason simply is that Swiss meringue buttercream is an emulsion, which is a mixture of liquid and fat. And yes, the meringue doesn't look like it's liquid, but it is liquid because it's the egg whites that have been transformed in texture and appearance, almost looking different in terms of volume and texture. And you have butter, which is the fat element. And an emulsion is simply when two things don't naturally mix together, but with a chemical process, you alter both natural states to be able to get the two together. And sometimes the emulsification is held together, as in, I call the emulsifier, which is I call it the peacemaker. When two things do not mix together, they don't agree, they are not at peace, they fall apart. Just a simple way of just bringing it home and making it sort of like relatable to you. When you have two things that don't get on, they are not friends, they are not supposed to be mixing together, and yet you have a peacemaker who kind of holds the two together. That's what we have here. Butter has the emulsifier, which is the peacemaker here, called casein. And the reason why butter has a tendency to kind of make or break your Swiss meringue buttercream is that if your butter is too cold, you are unable to kind of activate the properties of casein. It almost looks like just throwing chunks of solid butter into liquid. It's just going to not mix, and you're going to have chunky bits of butter in your liquid mixture. And essentially that is what it will look like if your butter is too cold. It will not mix well into the meringue, and then you have chunky bits. And the continuous friction or agitation then will cause the meringue to kind of fall apart, because there's nothing to hold it together. Which means if your butter is too cold, you will end up with a curdly or a curdled looking buttercream. And what curdled looks like simply is if you put like spoiled milk or spoiled I'm just trying not to make it such a horrid visual for you, so I'm trying to filter my words. But if you had cottage cheese that has just gone off, or yogurt that is gone off and it's pungent, and you put it in the microwave, it comes out, you have like lumpy bits that are like looking all cloudy. That's what curdled buttercream looks like. It's not obviously the same consistency, but the appearance is similar, except your curdled looking buttercream here looks a little bit thicker, but just with the cloudy bits floating in there. If your butter is too warm, which is that your butter consistency has stayed at room temperature or is influenced by a warm weather day, and it has gone past a sort of holding consistency, because the right amount of butter, because to get your Swiss meringue buttercream right, you need an appropriate or a stable amount of temperature between all the ingredients. Timing has to be right, because if your meringue is done and yet your butter is really not up to the right temperature. It means your timings are off because you need to get the butter in there. It's not at the right time for you to kind of sort it at room temperature. It's all a mix, which kind of falls into how stable things should work. And then you also have to have the right agitation of it, which is the mixture, mixing it together. So if say your meringue is not whipped to the right consistency where it can also incorporate the butter and then hold, then you're going to have the mixture kind of falling apart. So all of these like elements are important: your timing, the temperature control, and of course the whisking, which is the mechanical agitation of the process. With that in mind, if your butter is too cold, it is not going to activate casein. The structure is going to just set in the liquid. It's just going to be lumpy, chunky bits of butter that will look so curdly in as your outcome. But if the butter is too warm, remember, butter houses the peacemaker that we call casein here. But also butter is a structure in itself, like it's crystallized fat in itself. So we need the butter to still hold form and have structure. And if it is too warm where the structure has fallen, it will not be able to trap air pockets, okay? And it will not be able to perform the function of stabilizing in the meringue, which means we will end up with a soupy mix. But there's also another thing that influences how the batter reacts, especially if it's warm. For instance, if you have warm meringue, if you throw in cold butter or room temperature butter, all it will do is it will melt into the soupy mess, and then you end up melting the structure of the batter, which means even though we could activate casein, the structure is broken, which cannot perform the function of holding up and stabilizing in the meringue mix. So the simple thing about butter here is that butter just has to be the right consistency in terms of temperature here. And normally we'll say room temperature, but I always say room temperature is also influenced by your surrounding circumstance, because what is room temperature like, especially when you're in a warm place somewhere like in my native Ghana. So sometimes the cue here is to kind of consider the visual appearance of the batter, visual appearance and cue of the batter. In that, like as a person, I have warm hands because my hands are going into warm water, coming back and forth. Your palm can be very warm than you think. So look, in the time I've been talking to you, I've been pressing on the batter, and what it looks like without even introducing any form of additional heat. I have residual butter here that has warmed. My hands have warmed, and now we have butter on my hands. So what should the consistency of butter look like? Well, if you have butter like this, okay, that is too soft, you have to press too much in and you leave too much on your hands, that is melted butter. I wouldn't recommend you use that. But would it be bad result if you use that? No. You just have to observe for what happens in that. For instance, if your buttercream is soupy, which means your butter has fallen apart and the structure cannot hold up and be stable, you just need to go back and chill the entire thing so that it will hold up before you whip it. But then again, timing is an issue, because what if you end up over chilling it and then you can't whip it and you end up with a curdly mess, right? And the difference also is if your butter was too cold and your buttercream is curdled, you have to go and kind of warm it up a bit to break it up before you whip. What if you end up like overheating and then you end up melting it? So the bottom line is that whether the buttercream is melted or curdly or soupy, either way, it is salvageable, as in you can save it. That part of the process is almost like, if you're a beginner, it's almost to be expected. But the recommendation is to try and avoid that problem altogether, because saving it requires a different set of technique and eyes to kind of save your buttercream. And so if you don't know what you're looking for, you can be stuck in the loop of melting it too much or chilling it too much, and then it can be like a hamster's wheel, and then when you get frustrated you have to lose the entire buttercream. And I've known beginners to literally panic at the thought of curdly looking Swiss meringue buttercream. So back to the butter here. This butter I have in my hand is melted, okay, but it's not melted because it's at room temperature. It's melted because I've agitated it too much with my warm hands. Right now, the butter at the bottom of the bowl here. Let me just wipe my hands. Right, the butter at the end of the at the bottom of the bowl, this is the consistency I'm looking for. You can press into it without too much friction or pressure. There you go. You can feel a dent. There is no excess, not much excess. Sometimes you can feel residual butter on your fingertip, which is fine. If you have this, your butter is too melted. But if you have that, you can't see anything and you can just about press into it. That's the consistency you need. Now, what does too cold butter look like? This is too cold butter. Look at how much I have to press into it. Look. And it's broken into two. That's too cold butter. Like, you literally have to press into it. No, we don't need that. This is the right temperature, the right texture. Like, pressing into it easily, but this is too cold. That's the difference. I've already covered the subject of Swiss meringue buttercream, the butter consistency for any type of buttercream. I think there's only one type of buttercream, which is, I think it's the Korean, where you have to actually add cold solid butter, and there's a reason for it. But otherwise, for all the other buttercream options, you're better off just using the right consistency of butter, which is press into it, there is a dent without much pressure, and it can hold form. That's all right. So I guess I can say that also because in England I am lucky because the weather is almost like cold all year through. I probably won't feel the same way if I was under a 30-degree C heat. But on a day like that, make sure your butter is kept in the fridge and only brought out just in time before you can use it. And that is what you need to understand. With that in mind, let's go back and have a look at our meringue. We just whipped. And we are going to add our butter into it. Now at this stage, if you're asking when the sugar is added, it really doesn't matter. The sugar can go in before or after. I haven't added the sugar after. It hasn't made a difference. And I've added it before the butter. It doesn't make any difference at all. I'm going to wash my hands. The temptation at this point is to kind of dump the butter into the mixture, which is fine. But by adding the butter in small chunks, you are leaving the butter to be able to incorporate easily into the meringue. So try and make sure that you add the butter in small chunks. Okay? And as you can see, I've slowed down the mixer to a medium speed, and I'm adding the butter in small chunks, giving it room to kind of mix in. I don't know if I'm going to be able to engineer the breaking problem, but we'll see. Tabitha over there cooking made a ranch dressing on pork chops. Tabitha, please save me my plate of food, okay? Tabitha, I'm coming for dinner. Okay. So people, trying to engineer the problem didn't work because we've gotten all the variables like stable. But just so you know, I'm just trying to show you the consistency as it is mixing. Can you see? It looks like it was just about to break apart. This is still fine. If you see this consistency, just keep whisking, right? But for me, I'm going to try and scrape everything together before we go on. Okay, we're trying to get everything in here. So the variables here is that we've managed to get our meringue to stabilize and cool. Okay, we've also gotten the consistency and temperature of our batter at the right temperature, and we have almost like whisked it at the right speed and followed the entire process. So now that everything is mixed together, I'm gonna just give it a send it a bit up, see where we are headed. Okay, so here is another way. Okay, it is looking a little bit curdled. Can you see? I just need you to kind of see if you can observe the curdly texture. It's not mixed together at all. It looks like it's going to fall apart. Just keep mixing. Because if it is really properly curdled, it won't look like this. It will look like it's falling apart completely. So this looks like it's coming together. So let's give it like continuous mix and we'll have a look again. Okay, so we've gone from the curdly look to it's come together, but it needs to be mixed all together. At this point, you can either just let it keep mixing, or you can swap it from the whisk to a paddle attachment so that it will sort of cream together. And by just creaming it together, you're just trying to kind of add more air pockets to the buttercream, which will enhance the mouthfeel, because you don't want the mouthfeel of the buttercream to just feel like a lump of butter when you kind of eat it. So to kind of give it a nice texture that is light, buttery, rich, and with a smooth mouthfeel, you want to just cream it a little longer. But otherwise, the buttercream itself has sort of come together. So I am just going to scrape every last bit in there, add vanilla and the sugar, a pinch of salt, and essentially that's our Swiss meringue buttercream done. Am I the only one who doesn't want to lose any of my ingredients? I don't like to waste them. There you go. All right. Okay. If you're wondering what it looks like, this is what we have. Yes, seasoning said I was wondering if sugar was already added. Seasoning, remember we had granulated sugar that was whipped with the meringue, but I add extra icing sugar, and I remember discussing what it does. It adds bulk, balances the mouthfeel in terms of the buttery mouthfeel, and enhances the taste. That's all. But it's sort of adaptable, so you can increase it, decrease it for your own taste and mouthfeel. Just add in some vanilla. We add the vanilla with a lot of love over here. So let me just get the, let me just get this, as in the paddle attachment. Now when I finish, I'm going to talk to you about the alternative sort of Swiss Meringue buttercream, which is made with pasteurized egg white. It is beginner friendly, it's easy to make and derive, doesn't involve this tedious complex process, still has some downsides to it, but ultimately you get to decide what works for you. Plus I have already made that that type of buttercream here before, so I will link that too in the description box so you can check it out. Okay, but otherwise that's the Swiss Meringue buttercream done. I'm just sort of creaming this to kind of add the sugar, the icing sugar, and that's all we have. I'm gonna wipe the bowl out. How is German buttercream different from Swiss? I'll answer that in a moment. Yeah. Essentially, that's our buttercream done. Okay, you can continue whisking it from this point to kind of ensure you have a smooth mixture, especially if you're using it to pipe. But I'm not piping with this, I'm filling a cake with that. So the consistency of it and how smooth it pipes is no problem for me. But you can continue to cream this until you have a smooth mixture that doesn't have air bubbles in it. Now Tabitha in the chat is asking, what's the difference between German buttercream and Swiss buttercream? German buttercream is a custard based buttercream. It's essentially custard that is whipped with butter added. They're two different things. This is meringue based and it's a completely different process, as you can see, whereas German buttercream, I would have had to make a custard base completely and then whip the custard after it's cooled off and then add my butter into it, which is completely different. So those are the two different types. One is custard based, one is just egg whites based. So a meringue based and a custard based, two different things. That's the difference. But I have made German buttercream over here on the channel before, so all of those are already in live tutorials you can catch up on. For all of you new people who are just showing up in the chat, hello there. We're making Swiss meringue buttercream. We're nearly done with the process. So if you have further questions about Swiss meringue buttercream, how to derive it, and any questions that may be bugging you about it, please put it in the chat and I will answer it as we go on. As always, if there is some further things that you want to learn about, please let me know, and I'm sure I'll be back talking to you some more about buttercreams and buttercream options and what have you, right? But otherwise, that's Swiss meringue buttercream done. I hope I've been able to answer all the questions regarding Swiss meringue buttercream, how to make it, and most importantly, why it may not be as beginner friendly and not be the most suitable buttercream for you. However, as a buttercream option, it is great if you can master it, and if you can make it, it will be such a game changer to your baking and the addition to your cake layers. That's it. I'm going to cream that. Flavor O says, how long until we are done? Flavor O, I am literally done. It's from this point on, it is just preference to kind of keep whipping it, but we are done. I've just unplugged the mixture, and you can transfer it from the bowl now into a different bowl for storage and for use later. For me though, I like to make my Swiss meringue buttercream a day before I need it, because it will absorb flavor very well and it will taste better next day. Like, that's one simple thing that I like making your buttercream a day before use. It will just leaving it to set in the fridge under the right environmental conditions will enhance the taste and feel for you generally. So yeah, that is it. Tabitha says, would you say the 7-minute frosting would be more beginner friendly than this one, or you would say they are the same in terms of difficulty? I am not so sure, Tabitha, simply because the 7 minutes is almost like a shortened version of this entire process. It's very shortened without the details of why the meringue should cool or not cool and all of that. So will I recommend a 7 minutes grandma frosting? I don't know, because personally I've only learnt about it during research. I haven't tried it before myself, so I couldn't tell you, right? And when you asked the question earlier, I did say it is a variation, like a short process of Swiss meringue buttercream, but I don't think one replaces the other. I mean, if you get a good grandma recipe that works, grandma 7 minutes recipe that works, why not use it? I don't mind it, but it is not a direct replacement either for Swiss meringue buttercream, because the process for Swiss meringue buttercream is more adept. It's more intense, adept, and serious. So I wouldn't say one replaces the other, but if you get a good grandma recipe and it works for you, that could be a foundation to build up on for Swiss meringue buttercream. Because to get the Swiss meringue buttercream process right, you almost have to get used to the technical processes that it involves. And if grandma's recipe can help you get a foot in from where you can build up to Swiss meringue buttercream, then I would say yes. But it's not a direct swap for one or the other. I hope that kind of makes sense. Okay, so Tabitha is saying I need to tweak grandma's recipe. I don't think it's called for enough cream of tartar. Yeah, come back and send me the recipe and maybe I can make recommendations for you, because we had 300 grams of egg whites and we only needed 5 grams of cream of tartar. So you don't need that much cream of tartar if you like. You don't need that much at all. So it's neither here nor there. Okay, let's see. All right, let me get a bowl. If you Tabitha says, now I want to try and make this and see if I will like the feel of it better. To be honest, Tabitha, if you're kind of used to American buttercream, I should warn you that this might just be a shock to you because of how buttery it is, because food tastes different to different people. And I've known people who are used to American buttercream who don't like Swiss meringue buttercream. And I'll actually go ahead and say, the issues I had with Sandra and her mom was because they really didn't like Swiss meringue buttercream. That's not my fault. They wanted a buttercream option that was less sweet. We discussed Swiss meringue buttercream, and even though they weren't sure what it is, they wanted it. And then it turned out that that was the issue. So they didn't say that was the issue, but I kind of suspected because they said the buttercream was greasy. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, I would say go try it, see if you like it, so that you can make an informed choice out of it. But either way, it's neither here nor there. So that's our Swiss meringue buttercream done. Here is the entire quantity. This should fill a 2-tier cake, a 7-inch, 5-inch together, or at least half of the quantity can fill an 8-inch 4-layered cake, depending on how much you're using. Or if you're using just maybe 2 to 3 scoops, you can fill 2 to 3 scoops. You can fill an 8-inch and a 6-inch, a 6-inch 3-layered and an 1-inch 4-inch layered as a 2-tier cake. And if you're using the 3 to 3.5 scoops, you can fill a 5 and a 7-inch. And yeah, that should fill a 7-inch, 8-inch, 2 tiers options over there with still enough left. And this quantity should also frost up to about 24 to 30 cupcakes for you. And that's our Swiss meringue buttercream. Tabitha say it looks good. The like silky smooth whipped cream, but looks more like frosting. But yeah, you know what, it does look silky smooth. It looks more like frosting, yes, but the mouthfeel might just be different for you. So I would say try it though, because if you are used to American buttercream, this will be a complete shock for you, because American buttercream is like gritty. It has like a gritty mouthfeel, and it's super sweet, especially if you're using the 1 to 2. So one is not for the other, if you like, because food tastes different. So try it, Tabitha. All I'll say is try it. Yeah, I knew you were saying silky. blame the autocorrect for being a bit problematic over there. But yes, if you're just joining us in the chat, a polite reminder that you might be helping us a lot by considering to, if you consider liking the video. Just so a lot has changed on the YouTube street. YouTube is not notifying people, subscribers. So please, if you're subscribed to us, check again, make sure you are subscribed, and check your notification bells, because YouTube is not notifying anyone, and you are clearly going to miss out a lot on the value we provide over here. But if you're seeing us for the first time, hopefully this tutorial has brought you some value and useful information on how to make Swiss Meringue Buttercream, and perhaps has also taught you why, as a beginner, you should probably not be too hard on yourself if you haven't considered making Swiss Meringue Buttercream. But wherever you sit on the spectrum of buttercreams, I hope at the end of it you've learned a thing or two about Swiss Meringue Buttercream, but most importantly, you've learned how to make and also use it. The good thing is that this buttercream, I'll be back to using it to fill cakes right here throughout the week. I have quite a bit of cakes to go throughout the week, which is very unlike what I do a lot, because I have some really serious cakes coming up. I have a 2-tier cake, I have a 6-inch cake, and I have a 7-inch cake, all of which I hope to be decorating throughout the week over here. So it's going to be a busy week. So hopefully you can subscribe, join us, and then we can continue to empower you with useful tricks and bring you along the raw decorating processes to empower you about baking and decorating. That's what we do over here. So we hope you stick with us. Tabitha said, I love melty butter feeling, so I may like it. You know what? If you like the melty butter feeling, I'm sure you would like it, because it is really buttery. It has a great mouthfeel. It is great. Okay, so we've ticked off French buttercream, we've ticked off Swiss Meringue buttercream. These buttercream options are already on the channel. Anyway, they are already. But last week we made French buttercream. This week we've made Swiss buttercream. But if you went here earlier, just a polite reminder, we made lemon curd. So look, if you want to know how to make lemon curd to fill a cake with, go check that video out. And for the rest of you who are still here, we have a few minutes to go. We'll be signing out at exactly 8 o'clock. So if you have more questions about cake, buttercream, put it in the chat before I go, because when we sign off tonight, it will be adios, and then we'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Okay? I need to go and have dinner. I'm hungry. I haven't had anything proper to eat at all. But for those of you who are on Netflix, With Love, Megan is back. Who is watching? We're back to my favorite subject. With Love, Megan is back. Who is watching? I'm not. What am I having for dinner? I was literally munching on my dinner. You just didn't notice. I'm having a whole meal pasta and cheese bake. So it's pasta and tomato sauce with a cheese topping, cheese and chorizo topping that I made. So that's what I'm going to be having for dinner. I wanted to actually add an omelette with coleslaw on the side, but I'm too lazy to do that. You know, sometimes when you want a whole plate of a proper meal, but you're too lazy to add the additions. So I have a pasta, pasta chorizo and cheese bake. The accompaniment is all in my head. I might just throw in a whole avocado just to balance things up, but that's what I'm having for dinner, and then we'll see, because after all of this I still have to go and wash up, tidy up, and then derive the notes for this session. So that's all a lot of work, but always happy to be here and happy to serve. Tabitha is asking, also, do you like German buttercream? You know what? Yes, I do. I like different buttercreams for different reasons. That's the simple answer. My favorite to use is obviously Swiss and French, which is what I have spoken about time and again on here, right? But I love different buttercreams for different reasons. Because of the custard mouthfeel of French buttercream, it can serve as a good base for a chocolate buttercream. Oh my goodness, it makes such a good chocolate. It just feels like melting chocolate, like rich chocolate, into custard and whipping it together. It is smooth. The sweetness is kind of balanced out, but it's rich and creamy. So I like the chocolate buttercream of German buttercream because it is custard based. Like French buttercream, it's not very stable at all. It is not stable at all. However, there is the recipe, the German chocolate buttercream recipe by Claire Saffitz changes as an important ingredient, which is that in the making of the German buttercream, the custard base normally requires the use of cornstarch. Now, the way cornstarch absorbs the liquids and holds in the making of the custard and thereby the transition to buttercream can actually lead to a less than stable and buttercream that breaks easily. So what Claire Saffitz's base does is it swaps the cornstarch for flour, and the flour sort of makes the buttercream very stable and intensely great as a buttercream option. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying I like German buttercream. I like all sorts of buttercream for different reasons. In fact, I am not loyal to a specific buttercream. The only reason Swiss and French are the options is because as a business, you have to maintain consistency of taste for a customer. And so they are just my go-to recipes that I recommend. But if I had my way, every different cake will be determined per person and different buttercreams will match the different options of cake. I hope that kind of makes sense. But if you're in the chat, right, we've talked about Swiss Meringue buttercream. What is your preferred buttercream to use? If you're in the chat, what is your preferred buttercream to use? Is there a specific type of buttercream you prefer? If given the option, would you choose something else? Why do you like the buttercream you use? I know Tarpeter has only ever used American buttercream because that's the only one she's been used to, which is fine. You know what? I like my vanilla, but now the only thing I'm worried about is that my clumsy self, if this falls apart and breaks up, I will be so upset. I liked it when it was a plastic. But this is one of my favorite brands of vanilla. Nielsen Macy. There you go. Look at me, and there I go throwing it around. And if it falls down and breaks, I will now be upset about the use of my vanilla. Oh, I like my Swiss Meringue buttercream. I have French buttercream and I have Italian buttercream. It's just good buttercream, you know. I just better push it to the back. Steph, will I listen? Let's just say I'll listen today and then tomorrow I forget. Okay? It's Italian buttercream custard based. Not at all, darling. Italian buttercream is like Swiss meringue buttercream. It's like the egg whites are whipped up and then you create a syrup that pours into it. That's the difference. So no, Italian buttercream is like the older sibling of Swiss meringue buttercream. And I've spoken on here. The reason why I don't like it is because of the use of the raw eggs. Because I can't cook the raw eggs, it just makes me queasy. Seasons, if the question about it's not greasy, it's, well, I'll say this, the greasy mouthfeel depends on the quality of the butter, but good quality butter should yield you ultimately a good buttery mouthfeel, not greasy. The greasy mouthfeel of any Swiss meringue buttercream is down to the consistency of the butter, or more likely the quality of the butter. If it has less fat in it, it will be greasy. Because I think in Europe right here, we have recommended amount of fat. And the fat quantity should be up to about 80 to 83% in butter. Don't quote me on it, but I think that could be the recommendation. So the higher the fat content, without any interfering additional ingredients, you have a great tasting butter. Whereas sometimes they add preservatives, they reduce the amount of fat. So let's just say not all butter is the same. And actually there is a creator on here. I'll find him and link his video up. He tries an entire range of butter options on the American market, and he runs a test on it just for your convenience. I know he's Ethan. I can't pronounce his surname. The surname has like yeah, some European something or like Russian, but he's American, and a very, very informative and educational type video set in just everyday research. So I'll find it and I'll link it here just so that you can see how butter influences outcomes in cooking generally. Okay, so no, just to answer your question, it tastes good quality Swiss meringue buttercream with great tasting butter, or good quality butter should yield a rich, creamy, buttery mouthfeel and not greasy. I've answered Tarpeta your question on Italian buttercream, and I've answered Steph also on the buttery mouthfeel. People, I think 2 lives today on a Tuesday when I'm literally recovering from a long weekend. It's always like great, you know. But we're back same time about 3 p.m. tomorrow, God willing. So if you're still your day is still developing, I hope your day continues to be productive with all great things happening. And if your day is nearly over like mine, it's nearly 8 p.m. I hope you have a good evening. And if your day is starting, I hope your day starts well wherever you are. Thanks for joining me as always. Such a pleasure. And I hope tomorrow we'll be back with more baking focused tutorials just to help you get better results in your baking. Steph, Tapita, Karabo, Carrie, every one of you, Lollipop, Dolly, thank you always for your support and help in keeping the interaction going and everything else. I'll see you tomorrow. Happy baking.